week at noon. We go noon whether we're ready or not. We're live. And, still working on being ready. So, how about that? How about them apples? It's okay. No one's here yet. Soon as someone shows up, then I'll get embarrassed. I'm Aristotle, Full Throttle. We do a show here. We talk about movies. We have a good time. We have some fun. You know, it really is all about that, isn't it? Life itself. This is me buying time as I try to build a playlist for today's show. Because somehow in the last 23 hours, I didn't have time to do that. You know, time is ethereal. It's something that we don't really know about anymore. It's not a thing that we do. Time itself, it's ephemeral. So guys, today we're talking about world building in movies. All different kinds of world building. I think, personally, and this will be the jumping off point, I think that George Miller's movies, the Mad Max movies, are the best world building in all of film. The best original world building. Based on nothing. I mean, you could say Star Wars, and that would be a convincing argument also. But you know what? I think that for film itself, if you're going to do world building, there's no better than George Miller and all of those fun things. So guys, let me ask you a question. Hey Veronica, what's going on? We're just building a playlist for today because we like the music in the background, don't we? Do you like the music in the background? Cleaning day. I'm like 30 seconds late, Veronica, so don't you worry about being late. It doesn't matter. Nothing. Time is all relative. You know, they have to add a minute to the clock like every 1,000 years or something. Or they added a minute to the clock in the last 10 years. Sweet, what genre? Today's genre is world building. We're talking about, you know how like you can build a full-on, lived-in, real-feeling world in movies? There are very few properties that can do that. One of them, I contend, are the Mad Max movies by George Miller. What do you say? Or what say you even? You guys, I'm very happy to see you. This is a very, it's going to be an exciting show. Thank you very much. Trying to figure out how to get these playlists going here. I hope this really is entertaining. Do you guys have a question? Have you guys seen the Mad Max movies? I think it's very professional to just start a show and medias res in the middle of a conversation as if, like, I wasn't already doing this. Hey, guys, on Facebook, I see that we got some Facebook viewers. Nice to see you. We're just waiting for everybody to trickle in to start the conversation. It always takes a minute. It takes about a minute. I was even 30 seconds late. That's okay. You know, there's so much going on in the world today. People are locking down again, somewhat locking down because of the COVID situation. You know, guys, it's really simple. We all want this to end. We all want this to end sooner or later, but now people have like politicized this whole thing about staying home and or wearing a face mask in public and or staying 6 feet away from people in public. I don't know what they're doing about washing their hands. Let me tell you that, for one. If these guys are putting up such a protest about wearing a face mask, imagine what they're doing when they come out of the bathroom. They're not washing their hands. Think about that. I just had that thought and I'm disgusted. Hi, Shy. Hook. Oh, that's some good world building. Steven Spielberg's Hook. That's an excellent one. My buddy David wants to watch a movie, and Hook is a good one. Absolutely. I like that movie. It's fun. It's goofy. It's got kids being kids forever. That reminded me, I was just about that age when that movie came, or when I saw that movie. I didn't see it when it came out, but I was... Peter Pan syndrome, anyone? Paging Dr. Freud. Paging Dr. Freud. He's not in. What What's that like? Mad Max is very good, but I question the validity. This is what Shai is saying on YouTube. I question the validity of how people live hungry in that environment, and also how they found all the bondage gear. Listen, I don't question the bondage gear at all. That seems to me like that was the only thing left. It seems rugged. You're in the desert. You gotta have something that's gonna be sturdy and weather the storms, the sandstorms, because everything's desert. You know, and who's gonna be the best of the survivors but the people who are into BDSM? I mean, come on, let's be real here. They seem pretty hardy, like hardy folk. You know what I mean? They're the ones who could take it in more ways than one. What I'm saying is, they seem like people who would be able to endure a lot of pain and survive. I'm telling you. I tell you. Let me tell you something. But I think it's a cool aesthetic. You don't like? Let me know. Tell me if you like it or not. I'm a fan. I'm trying to find some songs to play in the background that I will not get a copyright strike for. So the only way to do that is to find songs that I recorded my damn self. And I'm doing that. It's in the background. Oh, all right. I figured out how to do it finally. Thank you. You know, we're going to have some featured track listing here. Some cool stuff in the background. I don't know. I think that the world building in that is actually pretty good. Here's K Ferg coming in here. We got Kyle talking about Blade Runner. That's excellent choice there. You know, I think there might be a little bit of a debate here, because what I would like to see is the difference between world building that's just strictly for film and stuff that might be based on a novel or short story, like Blade Runner, which is based on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. It's a short story. However, there is source material for that, but it is very built for film. Ridley Scott did that in 1982. Dig this, guys. It's kind of incredible. Just look at the 3 years in a row that Harrison Ford had in the 80s. 1981, Indiana Jones. Well, it was just called Raiders of the Lost Ark when it came out. He had that movie. He was like #1 in the world, biggest star in the world with Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then, 1982, it might be flipped. I might have flipped these. Blade Runner. Now, Blade Runner is a legendary film. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a legendary film. And then what does he do? He comes out with Return of the Jedi in 1983. He's like, I'm on a streak. I'm the Will Smith of the early 80s. That's what he said. And Will Smith of the early 80s was like, I'm a young teenager. I can't wait to be the Harrison Ford of the late 90s. That's what Will Smith said. I was there for it. Dune, yes. Shy, I'm excited, because guess what? Dune is coming out again. They're gonna, Denis Villeneuve is doing, who redid Blade Runner, who did Blade Runner 49. He didn't redo Blade Runner. He made a sequel for it. And he really did a congruous sequel that feels like a natural progression from the first one. I like that they kept the world that they built from the 1981 version with the flying cars and whatnot. But before I go any further, hold that thought. I mentioned yesterday about like how my music influence. Maybe we'll get into this a little bit later, actually. I'll just keep going with this flow. But we were talking about musicians who are also great actors. Gary Sinise is an excellent bass player. Like, legitimately excellent bass player. But I'll get back to that. We've got 1980... Blade Runner 2049 was made by Denis Villeneuve, and he's actually doing the remake or the adaptation of the book for Dune, which is also based on the book by Frank Herbert. And looks like it's gonna be good. I mean, I've just seen pictures. The still suits look cool. Can't wait to see the sandworms. I hope Sting is in it. Shy, I don't think you'll be disappointed because Denis Venezuela, he is really good. He's like a visionary director. Remember Arrival? That was pretty cool. I liked Arrival a lot. I think that Blade Runner 2049 was excellent. I think he's on the right track to make some really dope movies. He's one of the most visionary directors. I actually want to just spend a week watching all of his movies again because I rewatched the movie Enemy. And by rewatch, I mean once. I want to rewatch it because it's got a lot of stuff in there that you kind of can't miss the first time. I love movies like that because there's certain movies like that where you know when you're watching it the first time that you're missing something. You know that you're like, I'm pretty sure I'm missing things as I'm watching this. I'm gonna have to go back over this. Those are my favorite types of movies. How's this music? Is it groovy? Is it working for you? You digging it? K Ferg. Jen the Fierce, welcome. Hey, Tatiana, welcome to you too. Welcome to everybody. Do I lose nerd cred for not ever seeing Dune? K Ferg, you are an honorary throttler. You are an honorary neckbeard. You are among the tribe. We will accept you. But get on it. You gotta watch Dune. You got to watch Dune. You have to set aside 4 hours and watch Dune. It's quite good. If you like that kind of thing, because there is world building in there. There's so many things. It's a million years in the future. They have to build a world before they even build the world in the movie. There's remakes and remakes and remakes, and there's a legitimately 3.5 hour version of Dune where they have to set it up with like paintings and drawings, and they're like, look at this. This is what happened, okay, guys? It's really hard to digest all the information in this movie. It's very complex. So we're gonna have to like set it up with voiceovers and give you the inner monologue of every character as we go. And they had to redo that because the studio was afraid that David Lynch's vision of the adaptation was going to be too out there. But what I say to them is, you hired David Lynch. Did you watch Eraserhead? Did you watch Elephant Man? Excellent films. However, I don't know what they were thinking. What's up, Eric? Nice to see you on Facebook. Trying to keep up with all the platforms. It's kind of difficult. I've never even... if anybody's on Twitch, say hello. What's up, wubba wubba wub wub? Nice to see you. You recognize the music in the background? It's instrumental, so I don't get any copyright strikes. I was thinking. The actions are so world-building in Road Warrior. Mad Max had 16 lines in that movie. The gasoline lord humongous among us. Loading the gun delicately because the bullets would be so hard to find. So good. Yes, it was good. We were talking earlier about all of the BDSM gear too, which is totally appropriate for the desert if you want to weather, you know, the misanthropic dystopian future. You've got to, you've got to wear leather in order to do that. If you want to just beat up everybody you see and steal their guzzling, you got to wear some leather. It'll keep you looking cool, mostly. First of all, let's talk about this attire that they had. Very, very air conditioned. It was, if they're in the desert, think about this. I know, Shy, you took issue with the fact that they were wearing so much BDSM garb, but I put to you, I contend that it is highly practical. If you saw Tina Turner's earrings, they went around her ears. They were like, remember Princess Leia? We're going to up this a level. give her spiked hair and Princess Leia buns, she is going to be beyond the Thunderdome. You guys ever notice that the movies that George Miller makes, the Mad Max movies, are like wub 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 says, wubba dubba dub dub says, the movies aren't generally about Mad Max. They are titled Mad Max. Not the first one. Road Warrior is the first one. The Road Warrior, well, that's the second one. Mad Max is the first one. Road Warrior is the second one. However, they had to title it later on Mad Max The Road Warrior because people were like, what is this? And George Miller's like, just go with it. Just go with it, okay? I'm George Miller, for Christ's sake. I'm a dentist. I was an actual dentist, and now I make movies. That's a true story. George Miller is a dentist. So if you guys remember, in the end of Mad Max 2016 or 15, there was a scene where, this is a spoiler alert, and I always give a countdown when I give a spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. At the end of Mad Max, the guy's face gets ripped off. And it's actually, it's pretty anatomically accurate. That was what George Miller was going for, because he has probably seen stuff like that and worse, having been an actual dentist, having invented actual teeth. But the older Mad Max were super fun, and they were indicative of the times. What's up, Ange? Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the discussion. Today we're talking about world building in movies, and I contend, I was talking to Wubba Dubba Dub Dub about this the other day. It's what inspired me to do this episode of the show, this theme today. I contend that the Mad Max movies are the best world building in film. You might say Star Wars, but I'm going to say, nah. I do think that Star Wars is incredible, though. Just coming from the mind of George Lucas, all of those... but again, George Lucas inspired by many different things. George Miller inspired, obviously, by BDSM and dentistry. Also, living in Australia probably helped. With the whole outback situation, most of Australia being the outback. He's like, I wonder if you were caught in the middle of Australia. I wonder if that was what inspired him. But guys, I'm excited to see you all. I will randomly drop in extra musicians that we didn't mention yesterday who are also excellent actors and musicians. Like Gary Sinise being an excellent bass player. I will always mention that. Also, Paul Giamatti's brother is a bass player. I think you didn't know that, and I hope you can spread that information somehow, like a meme. What is your favorite Mad Max movie? There are 4 Mad Max movies. There's The Road Warrior, there's Mad Max, the first one, then there's Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome, and then there's Mad Max again. Because, you know, George Miller is loosey-goosey with his own universe that he's created. He's just straight up like, you know, none of these movies connect, actually. They're not actual sequels. They're in this similar world, yet we're following this unreliable character, Mad Max. He's literally called Mad Max, so maybe he's crazy. Maybe we're following him. Maybe we're seeing this world through his lens, and it's unreliable. He keeps drifting into different situations that happen that are outside of him. If you guys recall that. Shy, Harry Potter, yes. That is some good world building. However, you know, I've always taken issue with the Harry Potter movies. I haven't really jumped into those. I haven't seen many. I saw the first one, and I saw half of the third one. So I think I fully understand it now. I think those movies, they're really good This is the issue I take with Harry Potter movies. I don't like when someone could just wave a magic wand and get out of a situation. If I could do that, we'd be out of this coronavirus situation, and we'd have world peace. And I'm pretty sure in Harry Potter's little magical spell book, there's a spell for that. Changed my mind about this. In Harry Potter, every time something goes wrong, he's like, oh no, this is an insurmountable situation. I can't figure out my way out of it. Oh wait, I know magic. Why don't I just do magic? I'm Harry Potter, goddammit. I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I'm a fan of that. I like that, say, Mad Max in his world is just kind of like getting beat up all the time, doesn't know what the heck's going on, is kind of along for the story. Harry Potter's like, oh man, what am I gonna do now? Oh, I have a magic wand. I almost forgot. I know magic. And I can like fly and stuff on a broomstick. Tell me if I'm wrong about that, please. Fight me on it. The consequences of magic, I know it's absurd, there's no consequence. That's the problem. It's like there's a spell for everything. What I like, and you could say the similar thing about the Marvel movies, and you know I'm a big Marvel fan, MCU fan. You could say that I could say the same thing. However, I feel like every person in those movies has a very specific role, and they're very good at that role, and it doesn't really work unless they're all dynamically working together. And I get that that's probably what happens in Harry Potter as well. But I think that he always has another trick up his sleeve, literally, and he can actually defeat whomever just because of what he learned that day in school. Oh yeah, I know magic. I haven't seen all 15 of the Harry Potter movies, but I imagine that's what happens. Am I wrong? Tatiana says Fury Road is my favorite, or maybe it's just my fresh in my mind recently rewatched. It is. Fury Road is probably one of the best movies ever. I have a friend, my friend Corey. He actually was fortunate enough to see Fury Road a year before it came out at a special screening, and this was before the effects were done. The effects in Fury Road are mostly practical. A lot of that driving stuff and all of those the pole work where people are floating back and forth on the poles and stuff, actual performance artists, actual athletes doing that kind of thing. So it's really cool to watch. Probably incredible to film, but stuff like the sandstorm, they have to add some of that stuff later, which is really good use of CG. But so much of the driving is practical. And that's the joy of watching that movie. And to do that, it's just mind-boggling. It's mind-numbing. It just looks so good. And you've got the dude playing the bedpan, as pointed out by my friend Yubba Dubba Wublub. He was I did not remember this, but the dude playing the flame-throwing bass, which I want, by the way. I want that. I want that. And I say that very much like the woman in Napoleon Dynamite who wants the she wants the Tupperware. I want that. I do. I want that bass. If I could get a flame-throwing bass that doubles as a bedpan, I really wouldn't go anywhere. I would dress up in my leather gear and drive like 100 miles out east into the desert and live there and pretend I was actually Mad Max. This is his bass player. World-building movie. There's not really a lot of them, or really, well, there's Waterworld. If we're going to talk about Mad Max, like, you got to think of the genius of Kevin Costner going, you know, there's a whole world of just desert where they're looking for water. How about we just make a lot of water and we're looking for land? I'm Kevin Costner. My hair and my bald spot is CG'd in. We're going to spend extra money putting fake hair on my head on account of my vanity. I'm Kevin Costner. I have gills. I'm Kevin Costner. I just made Dances with Wolves. Give me more money. Dances with Wolves is an incredible movie. One of the best movies ever. Of the 80s. I tell you. I heard black and chrome vision. I really want to see it. Ooh, I don't know what that... A black and chrome version, yes. Yes, that was the story I was telling. I almost lost the thread there. Tatiana. Yeah, my friend Corey told me about the black and chrome version as well of Mad Max. My friend Corey was fortunate enough to see the movie Mad Max a year before it came out without the special effects finished. And I remember I was on set with him one day. He's a gaffer. If you don't know what a gaffer does, a gaffer goes like this. Put the lights over there. Put the lights over there. We need a light over there. Get a 12K over there. Get an 18K over there. Get a Mickey. Get a Tweenie. That's what a gaffer does. So Corey, he's been on Aristotle Full Throttle before. We've discussed Star Wars. He's got some good insight on these things. When I asked him, this is a full year before Mad Max came out, I was like, dude, you saw Mad Max? He said, yes. And Corey's a very understated guy, but when he says something, he means it. And I remember, I think he's got like his walkie here, and he gaffers. On set, you always have a walkie, or he's talking to somebody, and he's doing this, and I'm like, so Corey, what did you think of the Mad Max movie? And he's like, probably the greatest movie I've ever seen. And then just like that, just nonchalantly. He's like, it's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Period. And then the next year it came out, and he's like, the movie's even better with the finalized effects, and it was his favorite movie of that year. You could probably watch that on Aristotle Full Throttle if you go back. We were talking maybe about the year end in film that year, or the next year. I think every year Corey's like, I'm like, Corey, what's your favorite movie that came out this year? And he's like, Mad Max Fury Road. He really likes it. Kate Ferg. My favorite Mad Max, 2 words, Tina Turner. Yeah, that was the one I remember. We don't need another hero. That was the 80s when you got a pop star. I mean, they still do it now. But the early 80s was kind of... I mean, I guess it goes back to Barbra Streisand, too. You had the star. Star is born. She sings the song in the movie. The song becomes a hit on the radio. In the 80s, they made that more efficient with Kenny Loggins. What's your Kenny passwords? That's a tough one. Sorry, guys. Kenny Loggins really capitalized on that whole packaging system of like the record label being also the film company saying, hey, we're going to make a movie called Footloose and we're going to put it out on a record. Also, we would like a song with the title of the movie to advertise the movie on the radio. And he did that. He was like one of the first guys to do that. If you remember, the 80s was a lot of advertising movies on the radio in the form of pop songs. Because you got to cut loose, foot loose, kick off your Sunday shoes. Shoes doesn't rhyme with loose. What's he thinking? Kenny Loggins? Kenny Loggins, what you thinking? What's your Kenny Loggins and passwords? It was like a string of songs in Ghostbusters. Everybody's like, we got a movie coming out. It's called Top Gun. And then Kenny Loggins is like, Highway to the Top Gun. Remember that? Mad Max. But We Don't Need Another Hero was the song from Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome by Tina Turner. One of the greatest pop stars still alive. Whoever lives. She's retired. Hey, Shy knows Corey. Yes, I love working with that crew as well. That's right, Shy, you do know Corey. Did you flip between the two crews, Shy? Because that's what I did. I would jump between the two crews. There were 2 crews that would alternate filming at the studios in this Larry Levinson Productions in Simi Valley, where there were tax incentives to film, and that's why there was a studio there. Los Angeles, filming on a budget. It's fine. It's fair. Corey's great. Corey has been on the show before. Shy's been on the show before, for that matter. And so is Wubba Dubba Lub Dub. Throwing the Planet of the Apes, old and new. Yeah, that's a good one. Scary Movies franchise, but the scary movies are pretty funny. But they are very, obviously they are satire of the scary movies that come before them. Yeah, that is a great one. I do like the scary movies. I like that I guess it was mainly like Marlon and Shawn Wayans in those, making those movies. Oh, and those were Keenan Ivory Wayans directed those too, I think. The way that they would stack joke upon joke is my favorite absurdist version of filmmaking. Like the late 70s, you had the Zucker brothers. In the 80s, you had like Zucker, Abrams, Zucker. Where they would have movies like Airplane, Airplane 2, the Naked Gun series, Hot Shots Part 2. Those ridiculous just gag after gag after gag. Those are so much fun. And the scary movies, yeah, I would actually go to see those movies because they're fun to watch in the theater with a bunch of people, because you just go, oh, that was gross, that was scary, that was funny. It was just kind of repeat, joke after joke after joke. The funny thing about those movies is they have to actually build a gag for every joke. You have to build a gag for every joke. If you look at Naked Gun, just think, and Shy, I mean, this is more your department, just think of all of the stuff that they have to make for every joke. For the instance, the scene where in the Naked Gun where they unwrap 2 human-sized condoms and they have a giant condom wrapper on and they're like wrapped in giant condoms making out. I think that's hilarious. They had to go that far just for one joke. And ladies and gentlemen, throttlers out there, damn it, I will too. I will go this far just for a joke. I will tape and sew glasses on a doll. I'll tape and sew glasses on a doll just for you. I'm Dr. Baby Yoda Fauci. I'd like for all of you to wash your damn hands. I think the best world building is probably in Star Wars, but I'm biased, okay? The Mandalorian has done a really great job on recreating the feeling of the original Star Wars trilogy. I'm glad to be a part of it. I hope that everybody can keep their stormtrooper masks on, because they have an air filtration system built inside of them, which could help the fomites from spreading. Thank you, Dr. Baby Yoda Fauci. I vouchy for Fauci. Watch out, you might get a Fauci ouchie. Thank you, Condiland. That's a good accent, she said. Well, listen, Condiland, I grew up in around New York, so that voice that Dr. Anthony Fauci speaks with is something that is totally ingrained in my brain. I know the sound of it. I've probably met Dr. Fauci at some point. Animated movies are absolutely included, Ange. If they are movies, they're included in this discussion. Which movies are you thinking about? Yes, we also have to take a moment and remember Carl Reiner for also being a part of that group in the 80s making movies that went really far for a dumb joke. Carl Reiner made a lot of great movies. Let's see. Why is my caps lock on? Damn you, caps lock. You've got the Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. The Jerk. Remember that one? Oh, God. That's a good one. Yeah, The Man with Two Brains. I specifically remember The Man with Two Brains and All of Me having very... Now, these movies are, I believe, directed by Carl Reiner. He has passed away last night. He's the father of Rob Reiner, who's also a filmmaker. But if you remember the movies The Man with Two Brains... Oh, Melma, hey. Yeah, there's some like ridiculous jokes going on in that. It's pretty phenomenal. Building entire sets, building entire worlds just for one gag. Like the fact, I think in The Man with Two Brains, he walks into an apartment that looks like a dungeon or something, and the butler's like, no, the walls are paper thin, and he sticks his finger through like the faux rock surface of the wall. It's pretty hilarious. He just pokes a hole in it. Looks like a dungeon, like the catacombs of a castle. And he just pokes his finger through the wall. No, look, this is just plaster. Good stuff. Lion King, Aladdin, The Land Before Time. I'd say The Land Before Time is a good one for sure. The Popcorn Passport is with us today. Welcome. I gotta say, I'm just gonna put this song on repeat. It's a nice instrumental. Animation is such an amazing medium for a world of creation. Yeah. Oh, you know what's a good world-building animation? But just the cartoon, actually. It's not the actual film. But I'm talking about Aeon Flux. Remember that one? That one's pretty cool. They had some really good world-building. The movie, not so much. Charlize Theron, not my favorite choice for that, but she's kind of like a good choice for anything. So it's not her fault that the movie wasn't that great. It's just that it doesn't really lend itself to live action. Aeon Flux is more of a bizarrely animated thing where Aeon Flux dies at the end of every episode. It's like a save point. It's like Live, Die, Repeat, or The Edge of Tomorrow. What are some other animated films that are really, really deep? Yo, Musa Mountains. Welcome on Instagram. Hey, Rachel Ace. Rachel Ace is a fan. She's on Instagram right now watching, and I know that she is a fan of the Joker. You should check out her Instagram. It's mostly the Joker. It's mostly the Lego Joker. It's quite impressive. I would recommend her Instagram. Rachel_Ace. But Batman is excellent world building. Think about all of the Tim Burton movies. Those are fantastic. And yes, of course, Jim Henson's franchise and the Never-Ending Story. The original Never-Ending Story. These look like good, strong hands, don't they? I tried to rescue my friends, but the nothing took them. So good. You guys remember that? Sad. The rock biter. Now I gotta understand, why is the rock biter made of rocks, but he also bites rocks? Limestone. Vintage. Why is he made of rocks, but he also... I guess you are what you eat, right? I suppose the rock biter is a metaphor for erosion, in the sense that he represents how big rocks become smaller rocks, because he bites them and they just kind of fall out of the sides of his mouth onto the ground. I gotta say, I feel for the rock biter. I feel like if I was inside the Never-Ending Story universe, I would be the rock biter. Either that or the guy with the fro and the furry eyebrows who flies the bat. But he was a little bit too dirty for me. He looked grungy. Remember, he's like eating a stick? He's eating a stick. Who eats a stick? Trying to get his fiber. Oh, you like the rock biter? I'll do the rest of the show as the rock biter. Yes, Atreyu. He's so fun. Rachel A says, I learned how to cook from Ratatouille, if that counts. Yes, that counts. Ratatouille, man. That was a fun cartoon. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And Patton Oswalt, good in that. Speaking of Patton Oswalt, I don't know if you're watching I'll Be Gone in the Dark, but that is a series on HBO right now about how they caught the Erons, as they call them, the East Area rapist, the Night Stalker, the original Night Stalker. That's what it stands for. That's a pretty phenomenal show, and it's about how Michelle, Patton Oswalt's wife, Michelle McNamara is the author of a book where she kind of collated all of the information surrounding the investigations about the Night Stalker, who was never caught, and he had over like 50 victims. He never caught this guy, and she was a crime blogger, and she got together all of the information, which helped lead to the finding of the actual killer, which is really cool. Even posthumously, she died unexpectedly, which is very sad. I remember that. Patton Oswalt's wife passed away in her sleep a few years ago. But after she died, they caught this guy, and I don't know. I believe they partially credited her with helping with the renewed interest in the investigation, because it had been a while.
The rock biter, but the nothing took my friends.
Cartoon anime epic Akira. Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, Ghost in the Shell. Remember that? The animated Ghost in the Shell. The Ghost in the Shell from a few years ago, I wasn't a super fan of, but I wonder why the artist Tricky is in that, and he's also in The Fifth Element, which is terrible. It's a terrible movie. I know a lot of you will disagree with me on that, but you might be wrong. Everyone's allowed to be wrong once. Like K-Ferg not ever watching Dune. What's going on, K-Ferg? You need to watch Dune. I'll wait. We'll all wait. We'll be here. We'll be waiting for you to 3.5 hours from now. I want you to be shouting Muad'Dib. Akira is great. I do like the Akira world building, that universe. The anime universes are really great. And that aesthetic, that building of that aesthetic of that limited animation, but able to crank out series and features, really lends itself more to the story and developing the story, which is cool, I guess. If we're talking anime, I'll throw in Dragon Ball Z bias out there. Dragon Ball Z. What you said there is super sane. We're all trying not to go insane right now during the coronavirus. And you could do that with me every day here at noon watching Aristotle Full Throttle. Y'all are just sitting there laying back, putting your feet up. I don't know, you can have me on in the background while you do dishes. That's fine with me. Or if you're at work, you can annoy your coworkers. That's right. You guys in the background, your coworkers, I don't know if you guys are even working in offices or anything, probably not. That's fine, but your coworkers are going to hear, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Dr. Baby Yoda Anthony Fauci. That's my full name. I'm 900 years old. I'm still a baby. I still look the same. You know how the baby and the child in The Mandalorian is 50? I wonder about that. How much does that mean if he's like 900 in the Return of the Jedi? Like, if you were to divide up, how fast does Yoda grow? Because that's like, he's only about, 18 then? Because if he's like 1 year old, he's like 18 in human years. Unless there's like a larval pupa stage or something like that of Yoda, and then he just becomes a full-on old adult for like another 800 years. Coming to the show keeps my powder dry. Watching TV sometimes. Lol, Your powder dry? Yeah. I know what you mean by that, I think. Are you a rock climber? Avatar: The Last Airbender. Avatar: The Last Airbender is funny because they had to call it The Last Airbender when it came out into theaters, which is an M. Night Shyamalan movie. But they couldn't call it Avatar because Avatar came out that year. It was competing with Avatar, which had been filming for years. Just like the next 4 Avatar movies that are coming out in subsequent years. Who knows what the heck is going on with those movies. But I have to say that James Cameron always reinvents the medium of film every time he makes a movie. So I think we're going to be in store for something truly bizarre, truly world-building. Speaking of Avatar, I think Avatar might be some incredible world-building. However, I take some points away from James Cameron for just remaking The Last of the Mohicans and Dances with Wolves, but in space and blue aliens with hair junk, if you know what I mean. I call them the blue hair junk aliens. I don't know what you call them. I have to say, Avatar had some really good world building. Everything was hexapod based. You know, like where humans have like 4 limbs. Most animals have 4 limbs. We're based on this 4-limb system. The Avatar alien planet is based on a bunch of animals with 6 limbs. Pretty neat. And they really did. They made like, I forgot how many species of plants. So every individual species of plant, as you're walking through the jungle in Avatar, through the forest, the alien forest, they accounted for every species of plant that you see. They differentiated them and actually categorized them, and they're all made up. I have to say that that's pretty neat. I like James Cameron's ability to do that. Also, James Cameron had 4 wives, and all of his wives were his... He left each subsequent wife for the next. Dig this. This might change your opinion. This has nothing to do with his filmmaking. Well, it kind of does have something to do with his filmmaking. His first wife was Gail Ann Hurd, I believe. And he left Gail Ann Hurd for... Let me get this right. This is a little bit of gossip. We'll just get a little gossipy about James Cameron and his proclivities. It's pretty funny if you think about it. I mean, try not to think about it, really. Really don't. Don't think about this at all. I'm trying to find Gail Ann Hurd. Let's see. I've got to get this right. Definitely have to get this right, or else, you know, I'll get sued. I won't. My computer's freezing right now. But Catherine Bigelow, that's right. I forget which order he married them, but he was married to Gail Ann Hurd, who was the producer of his earlier films of like Terminator in the early 80s, and then he left her for, I believe, Catherine Bigelow at some point, who is the director of The Hurt Locker and all of those other movies. She's awesome. She's one of the best directors, particularly when it has to do with like war films, which I think is interesting. And then he left Catherine Bigelow when he was filming Terminator 2. He left her for Linda Hamilton. Or I don't know if he left her for him, but they broke up. Then he married Linda Hamilton. So he worked with Linda Hamilton and married her. And then during Titanic, he married Rose's granddaughter, the actress who played... Well, he didn't marry her. He bought her a house down the street. This is all true. This is all true. He was married to Linda Hamilton, but he, I guess, fell in love with the woman who played Rose's granddaughter in Titanic, and he bought her a house down the street, and he lived in, like, both houses, unbeknownst to Linda Hamilton. But when it became beknownst to her, she was like, nuh-uh. Good for her. Ooh, that's cool. That's cool. Egyptian archaeologist. That would have been neat. I feel like so much of those graves have been robbed. There's so much grave robbing for years and years and years. Let's play this one. Yeah, that's a good one. Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner is dead. Very, very good filmmaker. He was 98. I don't want to sound glib about it, but he was 98 years old. He had a long life, nearly 100 years old. That dude came up with people like Hal Roach. Hal Roach lived to be 100. Hal Roach was like the inventor of the Little Rascals, which is problematic. That's a problem. I mean, just look at my haircut. I based it on buckwheat. Buckwheat and I were separated at birth. But also, Rob Reiner is Carl Reiner's son, and Rob Reiner famously directed The Princess Bride. We are happy that Carl Reiner existed because so many funny movies came from him, And so many good movies came from Rob Reiner, like A Few Good Men. That's a great movie. Rob Reiner had a steep drop-off after that, though. When Harry Met Sally. Good stuff. I don't know if there's much world building in those, but I'd have to say that the Indiana Jones movies really do feel in-depth. There's something about George Lucas that he can create a world that we fully go with. For instance, Willow. Remember Willow? It's hard to rewatch, but it has one of the first morphing effects ever in a movie. We mentioned James Cameron in The Abyss. There is a morphing effect in that, and but preceding that was two movies, Young Sherlock Holmes and Willow, and both of those movies featured CG animations and morphing, and they never had that. They never even had that before. They had like Tron, which was incredible visual effects, which for some reason got stiffed that year. They didn't win any Oscars. They didn't even get nominated for Oscars because the Oscars didn't consider the effects special enough. This goes out to my homies in Tron. Yeah, the effects of that were really good, but they didn't want to consider those actual effects. They were like, you're using a computer, you're cheating. Come on now. It's the basis for all visual effects today. Val Kilmer in Willow. Willow is, I remember that being a lot of fun, but think of that. That is a very elaborate, fully fleshed out world. Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones might take the cake. However, not the last season of Game of Thrones. Not the second half of the last season. What's up with this whole thing where they make the last season of a show 2 seasons. They split it in 2. Why don't they just call it different seasons? They're like, yeah, it's season 5, which the first half of season 5 takes place this year, and the next half of season 5 takes place next year. Let's just call it season 6. They did that with a lot of series. They did that with Battlestar Galactica. They did that with Breaking Bad. They did that with Game of Thrones. Did True Blood do that? True Blood is also some good world building. Oh, one of my favorite moments in True Blood. I only saw the first 4 seasons, I think. I heard it got really terrible after that. I do have to read the Game of Thrones books. Well, the books have to catch up to the TV show. Of course, Angie, were obsessed with True Blood because it takes place in New Orleans. There's so many vampires by where you at. I was in New Orleans, and I got to go on a vampire tour. It was pretty cool. I didn't see no vampires, though. I did, however, see where all the vampires hang out, and they were all shipped in their coffins and stuff. It was a fun tour. I remember the first part of it. Turns out you're allowed to drink in the streets in New Orleans. Anne Rice vampire stories are all about New Orleans. Hey, the Mayan, welcome. The La Mayan. You guys are fantastic. I really appreciate you guys joining me every day. I'm Aristotle Full Throttle. If you'd like to contribute to the show, you can always go to patreon.com/AristotleFullThrottle. You can go to AristotleFullThrottle.com and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember YouTube?
YouTube used to be huge, but now the nothing is much better. Nothing is better than YouTube. Literally.
There's nothing, there's no YouTube. YouTube used to be a thing. Kids used to like it. Now it's TikTok. You guys can go on my TikTok too. I do TikToks. They're fun. TikTok is interesting, guys. I'm going to go on a little tangent about TikTok for a second. It's a fun amateur filmmaking platform. I'm going to call it that. It's got effects. It's got editing. You can do very archaic and very simple film editing. You can make little movies on TikTok. So I promote that platform. I think it is a fun platform for creators, and it's a niche. People say niche. I go all over the place. I'm bouncing all over the place. People say niche, but that's French for niche. People say niche because they want to sound, I don't know, special. They want to sound cool. Erudite. They're like, niche. I'm like, what, we're speaking French now? Okay. It's niche if it's English. Just so you know, niche rhymes with itch. I get a little annoyed by that. I don't know why, but I think that people say certain words like, they say banal. It's banal. It's pronounced banal. It rhymes with anal. I think people don't want to be mistaken for saying anal, so they say banal. It's banal. You could say banal. Just hit the B hard. Banal. And what's wrong with saying anal? Nothing. People, we live in a puritanical society. Nobody wants to wear BDSM in the desert unless they're George Miller. You know, but the BDSM garb in the desert, I'm a fan of. I like it. It's a cool aesthetic. I like the mohawks. It's very rock and roll. It's, you know what it is? It's very rock and roll. It's also very Judas Priest. And here's another tangent. Judas Priest, it's funny. They wore leather. They were dead set for leather. Did you go before it closed? What are you... Oh, yeah, you got to get a TikTok page. Go for it. It's fun. It's an amateur filmmaking platform, and that's what I'll call it. Let's see. We're going to play this one. This will be a fun one. Let's see. Oh, it's not going to play. Promoting the music, always. Went very punk rock, straight to matching up black cargos. Yeah. Yeah, it did go from... I think George Miller obviously was being influenced by the punk rock 70s. He was looking at that aesthetic and saying, well, how do we top this mohawk, this like brass knuckle aesthetic? How do we top that? Well, he did. He was like, what if this is the culture that is remaining when the end of the world hits? This anarchist culture. The music was about anarchy. The punk rock movement was about arbitrariness. I thought it was funny. I went on a rock and roll tour in UK. I like to go on the silly tours. We got about 2 minutes left on Instagram. So if you guys on Instagram want to keep up with the conversation, continue the conversation, go to AristotleFullThrottle.com and join the live chat. But I went on this tour in UK, in London, and this guy was taking us around to different parts where like Jimi Hendrix and the Beatles recorded, and I got to walk across the street at Abbey Road and take that picture, the very famous picture of the album cover. But he made a good point. This dude was way into rock and roll, especially punk rock, and he said punk rock is based on the idea of chaos and anarchy, so anybody can play punk rock, and that's the whole point. You can pick up a guitar, learn 3 chords. Punk rock is known for not being technically... You're not technically proficient at the instrument, which is part of the charm of punk rock. And that's why he said punk rock, the true punk rock movement only lasted 18 months. Because once you learn 3 chords and then you play them lots and lots and lots, you actually become good at playing those 3 chords, and therefore you are no longer a punk rock musician. I thought that was a funny point that he made. That's the song. That guy's whiny. Let me change that song. Sorry about that. Sounds like that guy didn't come up with lyrics. Guys, 10 seconds left on Instagram. So jump over to AristotleFullThrottle.com to join the conversation. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. All right, guys, it's just us now. Now we can let our hair down.
Now we can let our hair down. The nothing.
We'll hang out here for a few more minutes and chat about world building. I would say the Neverending Story is actually a fantastic world building, but I think purely for the film platform, for the film medium, it's hard to get past movies like Metropolis, from about 100 years ago, nearly. Metropolis has got some incredible world building in there. Art Deco world building. And that's where you get C-3PO first from Star Wars. When you have Flash Gordon from back in the day, that's how you get a Star Wars. It's very based on a lot of previous invention. And then when you have George Miller and the Mad Max movies, come on now. How neat is that? I'd like to see a movie that takes place in like a post. How cool would it be in a post-apocalyptic New Orleans? I mean, how burnt would those beignets be? Dark City. Jaffe Mustafa, welcome back. Dark City, that is excellent. That's that cool aesthetic from the 90s. You got, what was the name of that filmmaker? I think he also did The Crow, did he not? If not, let me know. I like to be informed on this show. But Dark City has a really great aesthetic that I do enjoy for sure. I think The Crow has got also some, yeah. The Crow has got some really good world building. Sin City, pretty neat. Based on film noir, also comic book, direct literal translation from comic books. What do you guys feel about that? When they literally translate a comic book visually, particularly I'm thinking of The Watchmen. However, in the Watchmen movie by Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder has this fascination and this fixation on making hyper masculine, hyper realistic, hyper feminine imagery in his films that glorify hypermasculinity, hyperfemininity. And when you have a comic book like Watchmen, where literally the character, like Owl, the Owl Man, Night Owl, he's impotent. He's not cool. He's a little fat. He's got like a little bit of a spare tire. There's things about this character that aren't very flattering, and that's actually the point of the comic book. The point is he's not so cool. However, Zack Snyder can't help but be cool. Everything is super cool and in slow motion, and everybody's getting punched. Everyone gets punched. Better than when they used artistic license. Yeah, you're right, Anja. No, New Orleans might be underwater. Might be underwater by the time it's post-apocalyptic. Yeah, they'll just call it Waterworld. Or it'll just be a shot of the ocean, of the Delta, the Mississippi Delta.
Everyone, thank you for being special. I'd like to do a PSA right now. Everyone out there, please wash your damn hands. I got friggin' 3 fingers on each hand. It's hard for me to wash. I like to wash my hands. I use the force. I'm very forceful with washing my hands. I have an astigmatism.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Waterworld 2, New Orleans version. Turtle soup. My friend had turtle soup in New Orleans. I tasted it. It tasted like soup. When you ever notice when people will eat all kinds of animals and they're like, it tastes like chicken? I had rattlesnake once. It tasted like chicken. Hey guys, just want to catch up on these comments. You guys are fantastic. Turtle soup in China is your favorite. Yeah, there's all kinds of soups. I like tomato bisque. That's one of my favorites. French onion, that's a good one. Tomorrow's show will be all about soups. All the different kinds of soups. All different kinds of spoons. Alligator. Not alligator. Alligator is nasty. What does alligator taste like? I imagine it tastes like the bayou. Wee, ooh. I feel like every time I'm gonna do my New Orleans accent for you. I'm gonna do my New Orleans accent for you. Now I'm gonna talk for the rest of the time. Maybe I'll talk like from a New Orleans rock butter. I'm a New Orleans rock butter. I'll tell you. Now I guarantee this limestone is delicious. Sweet. I guarantee. I can't. I don't know how to. I don't know how to mix New Orleans accent with rock biter. I'll work on it and get back to you. Yeah, that's how we like it down in the bayou. I tell you, we did speak of French, Creole. I do like the way they talk down there. I'm gonna tell you. I liked that guy in, he had that real thick Creole, twinged accent, that French Creole accent that he had in, True Blood. I'll tell you that one more time again. My favorite weird accent from, New Orleans is JCVD, Jean-Claude Van Damme in, was that Hard Target? My mama took one. Chance? Why is your name Chance? Because my mama took one. I love watching Jean-Claude Van Damme try. He's just too damn charismatic. I also like when he gets frustrated and quits movies like The Predator, because he was the Predator originally. He hated it. He quit the movie. Renee from True Blood. That is right. Yes, especially tomato soup and popcorn. Wait, tomato soup and popcorn? I think you've mixed genres there. I can't tell you. I sure do like that tomato soup and popcorn. That I feel like if you say anything in that accent, people will buy it as like a delicacy. They'll be like, let me tell you, I put some ice cream on the catfish, the crawfish. I'm gonna have it on the crawfish and the crawfish ice cream with a little bit of butter and popcorn with cheese. And you're like, what kind of hell bayou crap is that? That seems like an insane, delicious meal. Yeah, like, I'm wondering about this popcorn situation. I'm always wondering about the popcorn situation. Yes, please demonstrate the accent for me, because I know I'm butchering it. Because my mama took one.
Everybody, before you have any popcorn, before you wash your hands.
I don't know, like, guys, what are you feeling about this pandemic situation? You think, how much longer? Are you sick of it? Are you just, like, running out in the streets right now, just, like, not caring anymore? Because America is doing really badly at this. America is not good at pandemics, it turns out. Oh, great to bring up Gambit, because we are talking about the Bayou. And going to sure represents the accent well. Well, I think they officially released, I call him Tatum Channing, from the movie. I don't think he's any longer, he was attached to play Gambit for a while, and he is not, and he was named as a producer, and he was supposed to be in the movie. However, lots of things have changed hands since. So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen with Channing Tatum in those movies. So I think that was a good choice. Yeah. I think Channing Tatum was doing the accent, he was practicing the accent for years. I think that was mostly the point of him becoming Gambit. It's warm here in Los Angeles. Yeah, Taylor Kitsch did okay. He exaggerated a bit at times. Taylor, I agree with you. I think Taylor Kitsch is kind of... What do you guys think about Taylor Kitsch in movies? I know that he played David Koresh in the Waco series. He's also in the Battleship movie. He's also John Connor or whatever, John of Mars. John Fred Savage of Mars. What was that movie that he was supposed to be in, that he was in, and it was supposed to be a series, and it was supposed to be the next Star Wars, but John Fauci of Mars. John Carter, thank you. John Carter of Mars. That was Taylor Kitsch. He's not bad. He's not good either. I think there's like this whole closet filled with just like milquetoast actors who can just kind of fill in. And you don't want to get too attached to them being that great. Not everybody can be Sam Rockwell. But there's a general vibe going on with like a lot of these sort of... You want actors, though, a lot of times you want actors to be kind of an everyman. You want them to be accessible. You want to be able to identify with them. So you got to get people like Sam Worthington Jai Courtney. Worthington Courtney Jai. You've got to be one of those people to be sort of like brandless. I'm sorry, Sam Worthington. But there's a guy also, there's an actor who looks just like Tom Hardy. Have you seen that guy? He's actually even in a movie that was like Venom. Tom Hardy was in Venom, and this other dude was in a movie called Upgrade. And he was also in Prometheus. But Logan Marshall Green. Do you guys know Logan Marshall Green? That guy looks just like Tom Hardy. So I call him Tom Hardley. Because there's something lacking. What's his face in the Green Mile did this old school version of the accent very well. He sounded exactly like your grandfather. Well, there you go. I love regional American accents. They're pretty neat. I've been around the country enough to actually zero in on which quadrant you're from, at least. I can pretty much zero in. I'm like, the funny thing about people in Texas is they always announce their name. Like, they'd be like, hi, I'm John Taylor Marshall. Nice to meet you. And they've got like a deep gravelly voice. Hi, I'm Kip. And then you go up like northeast and everybody's up here. Everybody wants to talk up here like they're from Maine. They're from New England. Everybody's voice is up here. You don't have that same kind of accent. And then you got the Boston accent. You got the freaking wicked pissy Boston accent. You drive your car on Harvard Road. And then you go down to New York, and then you got Dr. Anthony Fauci. And you could just keep going down the coast, and then you got North Carolina. Then you get down to, you know who does this way better than me? Fred Armisen. Fred Armisen literally goes to every state, and in his comedy for drummers special. If you've seen that, it's on Netflix. It's pretty entertaining. It's definitely inside jokes for musicians, a lot of them. However, I think he tried to go for this idea that you could do multi levels of humor with it. Jokes that people will get if they're musicians. But there's something I do want to say today about yesterday that I didn't mention, and I should mention this every day this week. My favorite story about learning to play music. I mentioned this yesterday. I talked about this, and I was saying how I really wanted to play the drums in the 4th grade, but I saved up to get a guitar when I was in high school. But that was a year after I had a terrible breakup. It was my first girlfriend. I broke up. I was 16. I just turned 16, and I was very sad. And on my birthday, my mom, or like a few days after my birthday, or maybe a few weeks after my birthday, my mom took me to this music store called Donato's. It's in East Islip, Long Island. It was owned by a dude, Mr. Donato. I grew up with his daughter, Tina Donato. And it was owned by him. And this guy was literally like Italian. The guy's Italian luthier. He makes guitars. He makes basses. And he's very funny because he's very culturally Italian. So he wanted to haggle with me on everything every time I went to that store. But my mom took me to this place because I wanted to play the bass guitar. So she took me because she saw me in my sad state of grief. And I bought a bass guitar. She bought me a bass guitar. I got to pick it out. And Mr. Donato played it for me. He's like playing. He's like, this is a bass guitar. And he's very Italian. I'm not being culturally insensitive. I'm imitating an individual. I'm not making fun of Italian people. I'm making fun of Mr. Donato. Just to be clear. And he was showing me how to play the bass, and he's like, hey, it sounds so good. You know? But everything was a haggle with this guy. I got a bass guitar and a bass amplifier for $200 that day, and it was the greatest purchase it was the greatest gift I ever got. And it was from my mom. She bought me that. Mamma mia. And it changed my life. It made me want to be a musician for my life, and I'm very thankful for that. So my mom, I want to give her credit and a shout out because that is the best story about my musical history that I forgot to mention yesterday while she was watching. So I remembered that after, and I was like, oh my God, my mom's I didn't even mention the fact that my mom bought me a bass guitar. And when I was 16, and I just stayed home every day and played the bass and learned how to play the bass guitar. Yes, yeah, my mom is pretty cool. So she got me that, and so every year every few months I'd have to go back to Donato's to buy maybe like another music staff book because I would take guitar lessons, and you know my guitar teacher would write in there and I would write in there and do my like theory work and stuff like that. And every time I went in there to purchase something, like an audio tape, because I had to bring an audio cassette to my guitar lessons every week so that my guitar teacher could record part of the session. He could record songs for me to learn, and he could record him playing something for me to jam along to. It was really cool, involved lessons. I still have those tapes somewhere. And Mr. Donato, like, you couldn't go in that store without him haggling. It's just... I realized it was like a cultural thing. I'm part Italian, guys, so I'm 1/4 Italian. I don't know if you could tell by my beard and my hair, but this is a mixture of all different genes that come up with this face. Partly Italian. And I'd go in there and I'd be like, I would like an audio cassette, please. We got a TDK? We got a Casio. What kind of... I'm like, I just need a audio cassette, like a 60-minute audio cassette. He's like, okay, we got a 60-minute, we got a 90-minute. Which one do you want? And I'm like, I'll have the 90-minute, please. He's like, okay, well, do you want this 90-minute TDK or do you want the 90-minute Maxell? And I was like, I just want the 90-minute TDK. And he's like, but the Maxell, this is high fidelity. You're gonna get a high fidelity with the Maxell. And I was like, okay, then I'll take the Maxell. And he's like, how much you want for it? How much you gonna give me? And I was like, I'm late for my guitar lesson. You're melting my brain. But Mr. Donato taught me a valuable lesson, which was always haggle. And I still do to this day. I will haggle. Every time I go to a store now, especially a music store, they're like, this guitar is $2,000. I'm like, how much? But this guitar has a chip in it. I'm gonna give you $1,500. I just talk like I'm Mr. Donato. It was pretty amazing, Mr. Donato. I'm very grateful for him. Very, very hilarious upbringing I had. Long Island, I'll tell you. Interesting side story to Mr. Donato. This is the bonus stuff that y'all get when you hang out 20 minutes extra. Maybe I'll tell this story again, but Mr. Donato actually had in his possession a Stradivarius violin. And if you don't know who Stradivarius was, he was a luthier and a violin maker and a stringed instrument maker from several hundred years ago, like 200-300 years ago. This dude was the best in the world, and his instruments are still alive today. They're very rare to find, but if you have one, supposedly they sound the best. However, you can reproduce the sound of a Stradivarius. I think that it's just fancy, and if you're a violinist, you have to own a Stradivarius, an original. They're all like restored at this point. But he had in his possession a Stradivarius violin that a woman sold to him for like a couple $100. Sold to him for a couple $100, the Stradivarius. Now, she found out that she sold it to him. Mr. Donato restored the Stradivarius. This guy, he's a talented instrument maker, Mr. Donato. He restored a Stradivarius violin on Long Island. And the woman who sold it to him found this out. She was like, oh no, I sold this dude a Stradivarius violin? How the hell what was I thinking? So he, to save face, now this violin was worth like $1 million or like $500,000. It was like the highest price. These are very rare instruments. They're hundreds of years old. And this dude had one and he restored it and made it sound good again. This dude, how much you want? A 90-minute Stradivarius? You want a 120-minute Stradivarius? She came in there and she's like, here's a Stradivarius violin. It's worth $3 million. And he's like, I'm going to give you 200. And I don't know how that worked out. So this dude had it. And because he sort of sneakily, he looked at this instrument, he knew what he was buying. He knew he was buying a Stradivarius because this dude understands instruments. He's from Italy. And he said, he was really smart. He was really, really smart because his way out of that situation was to restore the violin and then have Newsday, the local paper, the local Long Island paper, come and photograph him handing it back to the woman who sold it to him for $200. So there was this big picture of him handing, like he literally restored it and gave it back to the woman. Gave it back after he fixed it because he didn't want that bad conscience, I guess. Although he did because he was going to get away with it. So when you walked into Donato's store after that, there's this big laminated poster on the wall of a picture of him handing the Stradivarius to the woman, like, because, he almost got away with it. He almost got away with it. But I guess for him to restore a Stradivarius was worth it. Definitely worth it. And that's my Stradivarius story about Mr. Donato. That's his Stradivarius story that I told you. It's very funny. I got stories from Long Island, man. Someone was handsy. You took a picture with Stradivarius? Yeah. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll hang out here for a couple more minutes. I've got to take a nap. I slept for 4 hours last night. I got up too early. I don't know what the show might be all over the place. I don't know. Let me know how it went. Forgive me if I'm a little scattershot today. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys remember the theme song for the X-Men animated series? That's like my favorite thing. I always say, like, when you're watching Disney Plus and you put on the X-Men animated series and it's like, and then the little skip intro comes on. Like, you could push skip intro as one of the options on these streaming services. And I'm already like banging my head playing air guitar to it. And I'm like, what you talking about, skip intro? This is my favorite part. Skip intro, rewind intro.
I want to thank you all for joining me today. We're headed out. We're taking naps. It's time for Baby Yoda, Fauci, to take a nap. It's really hard work trying to manage a pandemic. It tires me out. It tires my little head out. I need to take a nap, have maybe a little bit of bottle, some blue milk, and I'll be good. I'll be good to go. I might poop my little robe, but, you know, I'll get the Mando to change that for me. So, what's going on over here? He just kept trying to touch me and my sister. Yeah, that's odd. Never touch someone's hair. It's weird. Don't ask to touch people's hair. If you're curious about someone's hair, I don't know, just look at it. Just look, don't touch, okay? It's very awkward when you ask someone to touch their hair. When people ask me to touch my hair, I freak out because I'm like, I got freaking no hair, all right? What are you talking about, touch my hair? I'm a baldy. We got two big fros over here. Yeah, look, it looks like I have Aristotle Full Throttle's hair as my own. Don't touch it.
Today's show was fun. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. My brain is a little fried right now. I gotta be honest. I'm very tired. But I hope. Thank you guys for sticking through it with me. I appreciate your participation. I appreciate learning from you. I appreciate everybody for joining me every day and supporting the channel. And we're gonna have some fun with this show. We're gonna break through the ceiling. We're gonna launch through the stratosphere. A few people at a time. We've got a crew going. We're all making friends. I like this. The Throttler crew. I'm probably gonna pass out. How about I just sit here until I doze off?
This looks like a big, good show.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Y'all are phenomenal. I'm Aristotle Full Throttle, your bro in the know with the fro, and I'm gonna take a nap. Good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.